There are quite a few challenges, I think, that stand in the way of people receiving the care that they need. Um, there is an issue with access to services. I think many, not all, but a lot of members of the community find it extremely difficult to enter and seek help from the right services. They access their GP, but they face long waiting times to see a specialist, which I think is quite difficult. And then there are the very practical issues of language and some people, it is expensive to hire an interpreter to go and see a specialist and get that appropriate care. Plus, on another side, it depends geographically where you live. Whether that you find good support mechanisms from other organisations, and many of the very good voluntary organisations here in Spain are of course aiming at Spanish clients, and again language becomes a particularly difficult issue. It's the same. There are many services available through the town hall, memory clinics, day centres, which again, depending on the level of language which a client has, can be accessed, or people choose not to access a service that isn't targeted at their population, their own personal needs. Another challenge to accessing the right services for dementia is cost, and where people have increasing levels of need and dependency. It depends on your financial situation as to the care that you receive, and many English clients wish to go down the route of hiring someone who speaks to their loved one in English, and those fall to the private services here. So again, it depends on your level of income and finance, whether you can afford to provide that care for your loved one. It features a lot in our work here in Age in Spain. We receive many calls, both from the UK and here in Spain, from families, carers, neighbours who are concerned about a loved one, a family member, or a neighbour who is showing some kind of cognitive decline or is actively living with dementia and is struggling. We have found during the pandemic we've received more calls because people have been living in isolation because of the quarantine and the controls here, as it's seen in many of the reports in the UK as well, has increased the level of cognitive decline. So when people are back in touch with their loved ones or visiting, they have found that they have significant changes and are significantly struggling or are not managing at all. And we've received an awful lot of calls, and we've worked quite closely with the consulates here and the emergency services and the town halls to try and get people the help they need during those circumstances. We've had a couple of very distressing cases where family are stuck due to the controls, the COVID-19 controls. They're not able to come into the country, but they're receiving calls from neighbours and friends in the neighbourhood to say that the parent who's living with dementia is out and about, doing very strange things in the community, putting themselves at risk on occasion. And we've been supporting those families to access the right sort of services. I remember a lovely case where we managed to get Meals on Wheels to a gentleman that made such a big difference to him going out, because his daughter, as she said, was very happy. He settled when he started to get food that he was enjoying within the house. We offer quite a few things. We do a lot of information provision. We give information about specific organisations, and we give information on how to access care. We explain to relatives often in the UK how the systems here are slightly different, how they need to go about things, how they need to be looking at care needs and which organisations to go to to elicit social support and care in the community or access to residential homes. And we also offer assistance with that. So we, in cases, have been calling social services within the town hall and have been acting as a conduit for the people to connect to the right services so that paperwork can be filled in, that assessments can start. We also signpost. We're a national organisation, so we signpost to people to local organisations as well, and we work very closely with organisations on the ground in various regions of Spain to make sure that where a couple or an individual is living or a neighbour is concerned, that they are able to talk to someone locally. They are able to actually go physically or call physically someone who knows their area, knows what's available that will be best for the person they're most concerned about. We assist with the application for the UK attendance allowance, and we actually sit down and talk people through those applications and help them physically fill them in and send them off so that they are expressing the right things about the person they're applying for, to help them get the attendance allowance, which will allow them some choice in the care provision that they are choosing within the home. We are also, in some cases where people have made the decision not to stay here in Spain any longer, but to come back to be looked after closer to relatives quite often. We have been assisting with advice on repatriations and practically in some cases with repatriations of these cases.